hope you enjoyed that intro because I really did. Or will, haven't done it yet. But I've been thinking about it for a while. Anyway, the first step to becoming a pirate is the poofy pirate shirt. Right, Emmy? So let's get started on that. But first I really need to clean my sewing room.
I haven't cleaned this room in like 3 projects and it is hard to walk through. Whoops.
I've got some reference pictures and here is my doodle. And here's the pattern that Bernadette Banner gave out. I want to say I'm going to be following this, but honestly I'm just going to be doing my own thing. I've got my measurements written out. I have lots of this, I don't know what it is, I got it secondhand, linen-ish, cotton, something. It's kind of a little bit stiffer than I wanted, but that's what I have.
I cut out the body of the shirt that is twice as long as I wanted it to be, as it is folded at the shoulders, 2 poofy sleeves, a collar for the neck, 2 cuffs for the sleeves, and 4 gussets. More on those later. I folded the body of the shirt into quarters and marked the center, how long I wanted the shoulders to be, and how long I wanted the center opening to be, which PS should have been way longer than this. It's been a while since I was a pirate, and I made a very different type of shirt for that. I tried it on to determine how big to make the arms eye. I started sewing by adding the gussets to the sleeves. I pinned it to one edge, then brought it over to the other sleeve and rotated it. This was to add extra room in the armpits so a pirate could swing freely from the rigging, and for normal law-abiding citizens too. The rules say to hand fell the raw edges of the shirt, but they're more like guidelines anyway. I prepped the cuff by folding it over and sewing the sides, and then I ran a gathering stitch on the end of the sleeve. I flipped that right side out, checked that it fit, and gathered the sleeve into that cuff. I tucked all my raw edges into that cuff, and top stitched that closed. I left the bottom 4 inches open but sewed the rest of the underarm shut. By the way, this being a rough pirate shirt is my excuse to not iron any of this. Time to pin the sleeve into the arm side. I had most of the gathers at the top, which made it pull weirdly, so don't do that, but also don't gather the underarm area. I stitched the arm side in and also the side seams. I folded over my serged edge for the hem.
This is the part that was a little confusing on the tutorials that I watched. I have to put in the shoulder gussets, which go in here, and then the collar goes around. But before I do that, I'm going to bind this. I decided to just bind it with bias binding. I think that would be easier.
I just did a ton of bias binding, so I zipped right through this.
Don't mind this. I stepped in a mole hole. And don't mind this. Sky tried to use me as a flotation device. They were unrelated incidents, oddly.
I folded my gusset in half and pinned it here. Anyone have a good peg leg joke? If not, I will just keep limping around. Inserting the collar is very similar to the cuffs. I gathered the edge to the collar, all raw edges nice and neat inside. And finally I tried it on and realized the front slit was way too small. Different day, different pirate shirt. I wanted to fix a couple things. I didn't do a mock-up, so we'll just count that as the mock-up. Round 2 is much better. It's all done except for the buttons of the cuffs. I couldn't find any pictures of what is done in the movie, so I want to go watch the movie and then figure out what to do for the closure. But in the meantime, it is time for the vest. Also, I found some faux leather leggings. Easy pirate pants. I just got back from helping my husband pick up his Jurassic Park Jeep, and naturally, it is now mine, because it's awesome. And it's time for me to make the vest. I just went through Captain Jack Sparrow's handbook book, and it doesn't say anything about a vest. It just has bandana, belt, buckle, boots, braids, drawers, frock coat, jewelry, pouches, sash, shirt, tricorn. Oh, it says a vest. Vest is at the bottom. So I'm gonna get started on my vest. Despite the book calling it a vest, everywhere else calls it a waistcoat. I draped my waistcoat, which was great, but I ran into a problem. I was really hoping to be able to use this pirate print for the lining, at least on the back. There's no seam allowance on this piece, and it just does not fit. That's not gonna work. I proceeded with a normal and boring lining. I did my best to cut out 4 front copies, 2 for the outside and 2 for the inside. For my waistcoat back, I have a puppy.
Thank you for that, buddy.
Captain Jack Sparrow's waistcoat back is striped brown linen, but I'm working from my stash here, so I cut it out from a brown quilting cotton. I cut out rectangles to be my pocket flaps, but I am a bit obsessed with pockets, so I really did spend the next hour adding functional pockets to this costume. My brain wants to say that this is a welt pocket, but I have never done them before, so I doubt that's right. Google suggests flap pocket. That's boring. I cut out a patch smaller than the flaps, placed it on the front side, and drew a chalk rectangle as a stitch guide. After stitching, I sliced the center open, going diagonally into the corner so I could flip it to the inside. I used my pirate fabric for the pocket bags. I am determined to use it.
I thought I'd be sneaky and stitch the pocket bag to itself at the same time. It's pointing the wrong direction. It's supposed to hang down, not up. Okay, round 2. This goes this way.
I stitched up the sides of the pocket with gravity this time.
Pocket attached the right way. Alright, the next step is covering it with this flap. So I'm gonna just top stitch on my other top stitching.
My second mate wanted to snuggle. Time to assemble this waistcoat. I pinned the fronts and the backs at the side seams, but not the shoulders. After cleaning my workspace, I put the outside and the lining together and stitched around the edges except for the shoulders. Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl was one of my favorite movies growing up. It is to this day the only DVD that I've worn out from scratches and it just wouldn't play anymore. Also, He's a Pirate was, I think, the second song I ever skated to. It might have been the first, I don't remember, it's been a while. I'm a big fan. I turned the whole thing right side out through the lining side seam, seamed up the shoulders, and hand stitched those holes closed. I top stitched around the edge of the whole waistcoat, not an accurate spacing, but it is what it is. Now I know what you're going to say, Captain Sarah, you really need to iron that. I am disinclined to acquiesce to your request, but I did it anyways.
I'm just doing a quick try to make sure that it worked out pretty well since I didn't have a pattern. And this is great. I even found my sword. So tomorrow I am going to put buttons on this and do a couple finishing things, but it's really hot out and I have a lake. So, bye.
The next day I added a few finishing touches like buttonholes, and just look at these seashell buttons. There are 12 on the inspiration, but I only had 9 in my stash. And then we went for a paddle boat ride. Ducklings!
It is time for the coat! I found this pattern in my stash. I definitely bought it for this corset top, but it does have a coat. I am gonna use this and not make a mock-up because I don't feel like it. I'm also running a little low on pirate shirts, and I just ran a bunch of errands without my ankle wrapped up because it was feeling better, which was a big mistake, so I'm back on the floor now. I also took my Miata, which I loved, but that meant that I had to clutch with my ankle that started throbbing a lot. But I don't have to move too much for this. So I actually didn't do anything else yesterday besides record an intro, and I went swimming because it was really hot. And did you know that BarkBox is currently having a pirate-themed box? Hi! And they sell stuff at Target too. So today, we lost power. I don't know if you can hear the generator running. It's a little loud. It's currently 77 degrees in here, so I am going to cut out all the coat pieces and then go jump in the lake again, because it's 77 degrees in here. Hi. There's a puppy right here, by the way. Let's get cutting so I can go swimming.
I got 8 yards of this quilting cotton from the secondhand craft shop, which is a little lightweight, but I have a plan to make it work. Is it a good plan? Only time will tell. I skipped cutting the godets originally because I wanted to make them bigger. Plus they are cut on the fold for extra swoosh. My best friend sent me a bunch of fake tattoos, and I'm not against real ones, I just get stabbed by more than enough needles and pins already. And then shockingly, we went swimming again. And yes, I really do swim in long sleeves. I am in and out all day long, and sunscreen is greasy. Plus it keeps the sunfish from nibbling my freckles. I made the facing by piecing together the first shirt. My plan for making the thin fabric work was to iron all of my interfacing to the body of the coat, pocket flaps, and the cuffs, but I used all of it up. I stitched around the pocket flaps and encountered a huge problem with this pattern. This is a fake pocket. Absolutely unacceptable. So I added them just like on the vest. Back to the scheduled instructions by adding the pocket flap and stitching up the side front. I stitched up the back, the sides, and the shoulders.
Having some trouble with my workspace here. We took a little trouble. Oh, buddy. Oh my goodness. I do actually need to finish this though?
I'm trying to pin the godets in here. It might be a little confusing since not a lot of pinning is happening. There's one at each side seam and one at the center back. Eventually, I could stitch them in. Jack's coat is lined with white, so that's why I have a contrasting facing. I thought about doing a full lining, but it has been over 90 degrees every single day this week. I also made myself a new shirt. What do you think? I also made merch, but I don't have any samples yet, so I can't show you. I understitched the lining to keep it from being too visible, plus ironing, even though I'm going to destroy this next. I have a pirate coat. It looks very piratey. It has functional pockets, unlike the pattern, but it is way too big. Especially since he never actually has his coat buttoned, it needs to rest like this far apart. I can't really do anything at the side because the pocket's right there, but I think I'm going to take a couple inches out of the back, and then it should fit a little better. I freehanded a double fold hem, which turned out pretty good with some ironing, even though this is basically a circle skirt. Time for sleeves! They came in 2 parts, and I do not want to talk about how much time it took me later to realize that one of the lower sleeves was on upside down, because that was embarrassing.
Actually, reading the instructions, I need to cut 4 more of the cuff and 2 more out of the interfacing. This is currently 1, but my problem is that this is all the scraps I have left to cut the second one, so I'm gonna have to piece it together. Send interfacing.
I overlapped the edges slightly and it was fine. Pirate puppy! I took the 4 interface cuffs and stitched them in pairs on one side, and before I can assemble these any further, it's time to add the fake buttonhole details. I'm okay with fake buttonholes, but fake pockets? I don't think so. So I did some testing off screen and found a way to make it look like Jack's coat, but something I could do quickly, and not by hand. I ended up threading the needle with 2 different threads.
While I have the machine set up to do the fake buttonholes, I'm going to do the rest of them on the whole costume, and then I'll get back to sleeve assembly.
Captain Jack has more buttonholes in his coat, but I am not a man, and also it's really more of a guideline than an actual rule. Having 2 threads in the needle worked fairly well, but I had a few tension issues, but this is a rough pirate coat, so it's intentional?
Someone loves her banana bed. And then we have the banana toy ready to be repaired.
The next day, I finished assembling the cuffs by stitching the other side, stitching the lining on, and adding the cuffs to the bottom of the sleeve. I'm not going to lie to you, I enjoyed none of the process of putting in the sleeves. Most of the problem was that I used the wrong material, but also I forgot to mark the alignment notches. I did eventually get them both in though, with a lot of grumbling.
Time for buttons! This is the assortment of buttons that I found that kinda work.
I grabbed the 8 most matching ones for the front and stitched them on across from the fake buttonholes. I was thinking about this project this weekend when we went up to Lake George and rode on this beautiful ship. I was tempted to commandeer her.
I was trying to sort buttons. I seem to have a dog now. Alright, I need 10 for the cuffs and 10 for the pocket flaps.
I went with these bigger anchor ones for the cuffs. I had 4 different colors of these buttons, so I tried to place them somewhat randomly, and that left the smaller and much more random buttons for the pocket flaps. Pirates probably lose buttons all the time and replace them on the open sea, right?
Yar! I'm a pirate! I just need to make a couple accessories, and then it is time to destroy everything. And I don't mean throw it out, I mean weathering. It's way too clean.
And then we went for a jet ski ride and saw a bald eagle dive and catch a fish. I didn't bring my camera though. Okay, I wasn't even going to mention going to the fair, but I met my people. And it wasn't even when I got to feed and pet capybaras, they feel like oily pine needles, or when I got to hold a kangaroo Joey. No, it was in the crafting barn with the weaving people. I have all the info and intention to join their weaving guild.
I am so annoyed about this. When I was at my parents' place, I found Captain Jack Sparrow and black pearl fabric. Why could I not have found this before I finished everything? Because this is perfect.
So I made a few more pirate accessories, and yes, I only painted the boots so high, I was low on paint, and this pirate is ready to get dirty. Or weathered. I started by making a tea bath for this crisp white shirt and dunking it in strong black tea for a while. And then I went away for a week. I got each way too clean garment wet, hopefully to set the stains, and for the dirt I used, well, dirt. I rubbed the dirt into the wet shirt, concentrating it on the armpits, the collar area, and the sleeve cuffs as they'd be most likely to get dirty. I kept going with the vest and the sash too. The sash was already off-white, so it did not need tea dyeing. Well, hi, Sky. You want to help too, buddy? I gave the coat the same dirt treatment.
Not really sure how the dirt's gonna do anything on this brown. Let's see.
Plus a puppy, of course. And what did Sky wander off to do? To tell me he wanted to play with the hose, of course. After a quick game, I tried rinsing the shirt, which took off way too much dirt, so I put it back on and left it overnight. The next day I used the hose to rinse off the shirt, but that was too slow, so back to the doggy pool. Coincidentally, Sky loves dirt, but this is a bit much.
I'm gonna clean this now.
When they dried, I roughed up the fabric with a sanding block, breaking down the fibers and making it look worn, and also be worn. I'm just speeding up the process. Once again, focusing on the cuffs, collars, and the high wear points. The next step was out of the dog fence because I'm using diluted bleach to make it look sun-bleached. I rinsed it and dried it again and it was still too clean, so I dunked some pieces in weak black dye and it is finally time to be a pirate. really love how this costume turned out. It's not screen accurate, which was the goal, but it is still recognizable, and I had so much more fun running around as a pirate than in a giant ball gown. Something about wearing pants and being able to walk through doorways. Anyway, this is still one of my favorite movies from growing up, and the dogs also had a lot of fun being pirate companions. Bloopers are up next, but otherwise I will see you all in the next video. Bye everybody!
I actually see an Emmy.